Hello and welcome, my name is Reese and today I'm going to be speaking to you about one of our channel partners, BITDEFENDER. Forever Motorsports is proudly supported by BITDEFENDER, one of the global leaders in cybersecurity. Stay safe with the most consistently top-rated antivirus of the last 10 years and counting. To protect yourself from cyber attacks, protect your browsing and personal information, and so much more, get BITDEFENDER. With BITDEFENDER's premium VPN, digital privacy and freedom is as easy as flicking on a light switch. Bank, stream, and download without exposing a single byte of personal information. Unblock your favorite streaming sites and get access to content that you want to watch on up to 10 devices today. Effective, invisible, and amazingly affordable. Use the link in the description to get started.
There was once a day that I would pray for you. I'd go and misbehave just so you'd notice too. Sneaking looks up and down from across the room. And damn, what a hell of a view. I feel good, you look great, I like you, I can't wait. A first time, a first date. You're so fine, I'm so late. You sip wine, I drink straight. Don't waste time to my place. I feel my heart erase. So catch me if I fall. Praying that this night's gonna last. You got it all on tap, I'm loving your vibe, always have your back. We like all the same tracks, listen all night in the sheets all black. Said I'm falling fast, don't remember life before you, that's fact. I feel good, you look great, I like you, I can't wait. A first time, a first date. You're so fine, I'm so late. You sip wine, I drink straight. Don't waste time to my place. I feel my heart erase. So catch me if I fall.
Hello everyone and welcome to Forever Sports. As one of the leading channels in the world providing free coverage of all of your favourite sports, we are asking for your support. Everything that we create at Forever Sports is available for free and always will be. To help us continue delivering high quality content, as well as expanding our coverage, we are asking you to consider supporting the channel by becoming a channel member. As part of the Forever Sports Members Club, you will gain access to select perks, such as exclusive stickers and emojis to use during our watch-alongs and live streams. You will also gain early access to premium content, as well as have your name listed on the channel under channel members. We strive to deliver quality content that is unmatched by other channels, and are always looking to take things up another level. And our members give us the chance to do this. It is thanks to our members and other support that we get from our fans that we are able to deliver campaigns such as the France 2023 on-the-ground coverage. So if you would like to continue supporting the channel and the free coverage that it provides, be sure to check the link in the description to become a channel member now. Hello and welcome to Forever Motorsports ahead of practice one here in Australia for once again another Formula One weekend. We're really looking forward to this race weekend. It's one of our favorite races out here in Albert Park, a really fast and flowing street circuit. It's not one of the easiest ones. It's a long flyaway race. It's one of the furthest destinations on the calendar, but it is a lot of Formula One fans' favorite race. Just looking at some visuals over the top of that circuit, just looking into the final sector, it is a really tricky circuit in terms of your braking. We've seen how many mistakes there were in Formula 2 and in Formula 3, some really bizarre accidents that have happened there in practice today, where two cars collided down the second main straight and just took each other out into the wall. Really a bit of an odd one there, but I'm sure that will be investigated into very closely. We're looking at Carlos Sainz. He is able to make his way back into the car for this race weekend. Glad to see that he has been able to bounce back from his appendicitis that he had, and that is the reason why he had to sit out of the Jeddah Grand Prix. And of course, we had the rookie of Oliver Behrman making his way in, having a phenomenal rookie race. But looking forward to this race weekend. Be sure to vote in our poll that we currently have running, saying who do you expect to compete against the Red Bulls this weekend. Our options are Ferrari, Mercedes, McLaren, and Aston Martin. I think Ferrari are going to be one of our closest competitors as we're seeing Max Verstappen get ready to go into his car. Ferrari currently have 64% of that poll, Mercedes with 12%, McLaren with 3%, and Aston Martin with, I think that was 12% there, 21%. So just looking at this circuit, it is quite a long circuit. We can expect laps of around, I think it's around 1 minute 20 is what the normal lap times are from what we've seen in the Formula One game as we were recording some footage for you this week. Having a look at Charles Leclerc, though, also getting ready to go in his car. He's going to have to have another good race weekend, going to have to put in a better performance than his teammate Carlos Sainz. Of course, Carlos Sainz without a contract for next season, still waiting to hear what is going to happen for him. It's going to be a bit difficult this season for Charles Leclerc. I think Carlos Sainz is going to be really pushing to show his worth, and Charles Leclerc is just going to have to hold in and perform better than Carlos Sainz, especially in the team that he's staying in. He's going to want to have a couple better performances than Carlos. Of course, Carlos is going to be just throwing all caution to the wind now. He hasn't got anything to lose. He wants to make his name a little bit more out there for next season. I think Audi are in the works for him, looking for a seat. But we're going to have to wait and see what happens there. Of course, Mercedes also have a seat available. Looking at Daniel Ricciardo, one of the home heroes out here in Australia himself. Of course, Oscar Piastri being the other local Aussie, and then one of the new Australian drivers. I say new, but it's not true, Bottas. And Bottas doing some phenomenal marketing coming towards this race weekend. With Uber, he's got one of his cars out for hire on Uber. I think it's called Uber One. Just phenomenal marketing from himself. Really just embracing the Aussie culture. And he is just completely accepted when he comes to Australia. Of course, he started rocking the mullet last season and he's now dyed it blonde white. He's really just completely wholeheartedly embraced being an Australian. Of course, his girlfriend is an Australian, as we now have the credits starting to run before the session. With just under 5 minutes left to go now, it is getting very close to the start of this practice one. As JP says there, morning Reese, nice and early one today. Yes, it is quite early, 3:25 at the moment in South Africa, but always eager to bring you coverage of the Formula One. Be sure to let me know where you're watching it from. Let me know down in the comment section below, as well as be sure to vote in that poll that is currently running, asking who do you expect to compete against the Red Bulls this weekend. Of course, lots of talk about Lewis Hamilton coming into the season with his shock move to Ferrari. Be sure to let us know what you think of that as well. I'm quite excited to see how that turns out. It's going to be very interesting. As we're now looking at some stats about this Australian Grand Prix, of course, one of the furthest flyaway races of the season. Round 3 Of course, we've already had Bahrain and Saudi Arabia as we're now looking over this incredible track out now in Australia. It is so nice and sunny out there. It is going to provide perfect conditions for all 20 drivers to get some good data around the circuit. It's a 5.2 kilometer circuit. 70% of the track is spent at full throttle. The top speed is 339.9 kilometers an hour with 14 turns and an elevation of 2.45 meters. It's a track that pretty much everyone likes to get to know, as we're looking at the C5, C4, and C3 compounds, which are going to be used this weekend. The softest, of course, being the C5 and the hardest being the C3. This is the softest in our Pirelli range, being the C5. So we should be able to expect some really fast lap times around the circuit. As I said, around the 120 mark, maybe the 119s, possibly even 118s. Seeing, of course, how high the grip levels are around here. We've seen Formula 2 and Formula 3, how they have been pretty low, especially into the braking zones, where we've seen a lot of lockups, a lot of people going into the gravel traps. But it is still very green. It's early days of practice out here in Melbourne, as we're seeing completely packed grandstands and grass areas. The temperature at the moment is 18 degrees Celsius. I assume that's air temperature. Track temperature is 30 degrees Celsius with 62% humidity out on circuit right now with 2.2 kilometer winds. Very, very warm out there, I'm sure, for a lot of the Australian fans, but they are also happy to sit out there to watch some Formula 1 cars racing around their home circuit. It is looking absolutely vibey as per usual out here in Australia. Always does look like an absolute party at these races. Just under 2 minutes left to go until we get cars out on circuit, as we're watching a bit of a buzz starting to form around the pit lane. Carlos Sainz's Ferrari returns onto track after recovering from surgery for appendicitis after the last race weekend. Unfortunately, Carlos Sainz, as I said already, was not able to compete in that Saudi Arabian Grand Prix, and Oliver Behrman was able to step in for him. A lot of talk was going on if Oliver Behrman was going to have to step in once again this race weekend. But as we have seen, Carlos Sainz is once again fit and back in a Formula 1 car. It would have been quite exciting to see Ollie Behrman back in another car for this race weekend, but of course, Carlos Sainz is better. A lot of talk, of course, about Ollie Behrman, what he could do for the future. I think he is going to be a great young star to watch for the future. Very, very young. Having his Formula 1 debut, I would love if he had a full-time Formula 1 seat. Of course, there isn't any spots available for him, but I think I would love to see him in a Williams, or I don't really want to see him in a Haas. I think Haas are a little bit too uncompetitive. Of course, as a rookie, you do need to cut your teeth a little bit, but I still don't want to see him going into a Haas and having similar fate to the likes of Mick Schumacher, when you're just stuck in a real midfield car that has no opportunities to get a little bit higher up. We're seeing some last-minute adjustments on Daniel Ricciardo's mirrors, as we also have now Fernando Alonso at the end of the pit lane with that bright green stake car behind him. I think that might be Zhou Guanyu. Big air brakes on the front of Fernando Alonso's car, so they're doing some front wing testing by the looks of things. We're hearing now more engines revving up, so a lot more drivers getting ready to go out for the start of this practice 1 session. Oscar Piastri now has made his way to the end of the pit lane, so he will be getting ready to go and do a practice start. He's wearing a special helmet for this race weekend, of course, being his home race. He has got, I think that's a Mercedes lining up behind him as he does his practice start. Now, looking at the Constructors' Championship heading into this race weekend, Red Bull have 87 points, Ferrari 49, McLaren with 28 for third place, Mercedes with 26, Aston Martin with 13, Haas, the final team with points, with 1 in 6th place, Williams 0, Kick Sauber 0, Red Bull, Racing Bulls Honda have 0 as well, and then Williams as well with 0. So still a lot of points up for grabs in the Constructors' Championship, but Red Bull already making an early getaway with the points. Oscar Piastri now, we're following alongside with him, having his way. I think this is only the second or third time second time in a Formula One car coming around this circuit. So hopefully he has a bit of a better year this year than he would have had last year. Of course, the McLarens being rather uncompetitive in the opening stages of the season last year. But their car seems to be a lot better of a platform to start the season off now. But we would be expecting a little bit more performance from them. They haven't brought any upgrades for this race weekend. We've seen how many upgrades have been brought from other teams, as we did just pop it down in the comment section there. So looking at the upgrades for this race weekend, Red Bull have brought none, Mercedes have brought none, Ferrari have added a winglet to the rear wing pylon, McLaren have brought no upgrades, Aston Martin have brought front wing flaps, which is why they're doing all of that aerodynamic testing, as we're now seeing one of the Mercedes starting their first hot laps, that is George Russell. Alpine have brought a new B-wing, Williams have brought new rear brake ducts and winglets, Racing Bulls have brought a new rear wing, Sauber have brought front wing flaps and a new end plate, and Haas have brought no upgrades at all. George Russell giving some feedback on the radio. He's running in traffic at the moment behind, I think that is Sergio Perez. Yes, it is Sergio Perez running on a set of softs, George Russell on a set of mediums, catching up very quickly to Sergio Perez as they come down that back straight, that section, which used to have a nice big chicane, and that has now been taken out in the middle sector, and now is just one long DRS straight. Charles Leclerc also starting a warm-up lap now before he starts to put in some hot laps. For us, Oscar Piastri, he's finished his first warm-up lap at 2 minutes and 3 seconds, as George Russell has done 1 minute 39.5. We would expect the times to fall quite a lot more than that in the upcoming minutes. Charles Leclerc now starting his first hot lap of the day, 56 minutes and 50 seconds on the clock remaining for this practice one session. Still a lot of time ahead of us, a lot of learning to do, as we've seen Fernando Alonso and Aston Martin with those aero rates on their car trying to do some CFD testing just to correlate between all of their data back home and what's actually on the car with their new upgraded front wings. Hopefully it will bring them a little bit more performance, especially at a power and aerodynamic circuit like this, where everything is so dependent on your entire package, as George Russell has now set the fastest lap time of the session with 1:30.219 or 2:14, as Zhou Guanyu has now just beat that on a set of mediums with a 1:23.596, and Oscar Piastri beats that as well with a 1:21.357, and then just for good luck, Lewis Hamilton as well with a 1:20.866. So I was expecting to get close to the 120s quite soon, and we're already right within that margin. So I think we could get well into the 118s at some point if we do get a lot more fuel getting taken out of the cars. Charles Leclerc coming through the final sector now. Where does he put himself? DRS comes wide open. He comes across the line, and he puts his Ferrari up into second place with a 1:21.115. Much better from Charles Leclerc. So he has got a little bit of time between himself and Oscar Piastri. Piastri with a 1:21.3, Leclerc with a 1:21.1. Yeah, it is a 1:21.1. So much better from him. Yuki Tsunoda has quietly put himself into fifth place, as that gets taken away by Lance Stroll, who puts on a 1:21.5. Just waiting for another couple of drivers to put in some hot laps now, as I think George Russell has improved his time to a 1:21.9, as Sergio Perez now puts himself up into fourth place. Max Verstappen is starting to go on a warm-up lap, so we can see a hot lap coming from him in the next couple of minutes. I think he has actually just started a hot lap right now. Oscar Piastri starting another hot lap as well for himself, as Lewis Hamilton comes onto the radio and says this brake pedal is really long, so not getting the brake pressure that he would like in his car when the brake feels a little bit long and it's just not as solid as you want. It's not giving you that feedback that you want from it, and it just doesn't give you the stability in the car, which is why they often say that the brake pedal feels a bit long and they normally come straight into the pits to get that sorted out. No point running around on circuit with the brake pedal that doesn't feel right. you may as well just come and get that fixed. 87 of you watching alongside with us at the moment, thank you very much for joining. Please be sure to hit that like button. We have only 10 likes on this video right now. I'm sure we can get a whole lot more. As well as be sure to let us know in the comment section where you are watching from. It is currently 3 in South Africa, bright and early, here to bring you the Formula One action out in Australia, as Oscar Piastri has now set the fastest middle sector in his McLaren, 0.41 down on Lance Stroll's fastest time of 120.778. Where can Oscar Piastri put himself on his set of mediums as Max Verstappen gets out of the way there for him in the closing stages of this lap? Looking very, very neat and tidy, very stable on the steering wheel for Oscar Piastri. Looking behind his visor cam, it is very, very neat and tidy behind the wheel there. No major corrections for him as he comes through the final corner. DRS wide open, approaching the start-finish line. Where does he put himself? Will he take that fastest lap? And he does go now up into his P2. Not fast enough just yet to go past Lance Stroll, but a very good lap time as Lando Norris goes even faster with the 120.667, taking now that top spot of the time board. Oscar Piastri, though, is currently a couple of points ahead of his teammates in the Drivers' Championship. He's doing quite well this season. He's been having a couple better races than Lando Norris. Just looking at a little bit of a moment for Oscar Piastri through turn 9. That would have been why he lost a bit of pace in that final sector. It is a very tricky turn 9 and 10, that high-speed chicane coming after that long DRS straight. But he just didn't have the grip that he needed possibly on the front end there. Had a bit of a correction that would have cost him a couple of tenths. But he's still P4. Brilliant time for himself as Yuki Tsunoda now has taken that top spot with a 120.567. Also on that set of medium tires, so must just be doing some high fuel runs or lower fuel runs than everyone else around them. But those on softs, the likes of Leclerc, Verstappen and Perez, you expect them to be on relatively high fuel runs to be not putting in anything spectacular. As we have Nico Hülkenberg going out around on a set of mediums, as now Sergio Perez has taken the fastest lap time with a 119.977. We're seeing this track grip up quite quickly as Rod says, good morning from Thailand. Thank you very much for joining us, Rod. One of our regulars on the channel joining us once again from Thailand, as Lance Stroll is just lighting the boards up purple at the moment. We're waiting for him to finish his lap up. Nico Hülkenberg is about to finish his lap in that Haas. He puts himself only up into P14, the second fastest time, or second slowest time of the day so far. Lance Stroll now coming through the final corner, DRS wide open, approaching that start-finish line. Where does he put himself? He's getting a nice toe as well down that start-finish straight. He goes happily P1 with a 119.858. 260 kilometers an hour was his top speed down that main straight. Of course, not pushing there as he had finished his lap. Seeing all of the apparatus now being taken off of Fernando Alonso's car so he can go and do some high-speed runs. They've done their CFD testing. As we're watching Charles Leclerc also starting to light up the timing boards now, as F123 says, hope all of the 3 Australian drivers will do well, especially Oscar Piastri. Of course, our 3 drivers are Oscar Piastri, Daniel Ricciardo, and Valtteri Bottas is the honorary Australian in the last 2 years since he has donned the mullet. Looking at Charles Leclerc, he's also setting up those timing boards purple right now. Really, really good set of times from him, but he is on a set of softs, so you would expect him to be quite quick. He's coming through the final sector now as Oscar Piastri has taken that fastest lap time of 119 points. I think that is 8. I can't see just yet, as now Charles Leclerc has gone even faster than Oscar Piastri, 119.3, so it was a 0.3 from Oscar Piastri as well. Just having a look at these new upgraded front wings for the Aston Martins this race weekend. It is looking a little bit better refined. Not so much the humping and, well, technical wing that we have on like the likes of Mercedes, but it is a lot more simple, I would have to say, a little bit more Red Bull-esque. a lot more thoughtful in the way that they are flowing with the air. As we're now seeing Max Verstappen starting his next hot lap on the set of softs. He's looking really quite hooked up through turns 1 and 2 as he opens down now the DRS for the first long DRS straight of his lap. Just hearing that there may be some trickery going on that Aston Martin front wing, as Max Verstappen is 0.4 down on Charles Leclerc in the first sector, so clearly not pushing as much as everyone else has been. He's just doing his own run plan for today. So just looking at what they're talking about on this front wing, they've got those slot gap separators that they've got, so those little strengthening parts that can also act as aero bits. Just trying to see what they're saying is new on these. Just hearing above the sponsor logo, it just has a little bit of an extra element there to shape the wing, and you can really see how it does. It has, in the final element, it goes straight and then has another little carbon element that comes up slightly, just to shape the air a little bit more, and hopefully that can provide some better aerodynamic grip for the Aston Martins. We'll have to wait and see how well that does help. Of course, looking on the Red Bull pit wall is Christian Horner. He has still stayed with the team. There was a lot of rumors going around that he would be fired before this upcoming race weekend, but he is still firmly with Red Bull and still holding his ground quite firmly that he is the team boss of Red Bull Racing and will not be going anywhere. Max Verstappen also coming out in support of the team, saying that he's the driver and hasn't had much of a upset because of all of the turmoil going on with the team. But we'll just have to wait and see what does happen for Red Bull throughout the rest of the season. Charles Leclerc lighting up the timing boards once again in the first sector. He's put in a fastest first sector now, not improving on his middle sector, still up, but putting in a yellow middle sector. As we also see, I think that was Magnussen moving himself up into 10th place. Watching now Charles Leclerc coming through the final sector, really hooked up through one of those final few corners. It is just a really, really tricky final sector, testing all of your aerodynamics. You really need a high aerodynamic setup through that final sector. As he now comes across the line, does he improve on his lap time? Yes, he does. He goes even faster with a 1:19.110. So getting very close to the 1:18s that I predicted quite quickly here already today. I was expecting maybe to get into the 1:18s in qualifying, not necessarily in practice, but we're already right on the brink of those 1:18s. As Oscar Piastri is really hooking it up right now. 0.4 down in the first sector, but really putting it through these medium tyres. Daniel Ricciardo moves himself up into P8 with a 1:20.103. He's got quite a bit of work to do this race weekend. He just felt a little bit lost last time out in Saudi Arabia, not being able to perform on the same level of his teammate Yuki Tsunoda. He's currently, I was going to say matching him, but not really. Yuki Tsunoda's done a 1:19.8. He's only done a 1:20.1. But there have been a lot of calls as to what is happening with Daniel Ricciardo. He is a really experienced driver. He should have come into that seat at Racing Bulls and really been able to take it to Yuki Tsunoda, his teammate, as Max Verstappen has now set that first fastest sector alight with the purple sector now, as Oscar Piastri finishes up his lap with a 1:20 or a 1:19.7 to do some race pace through there. But it's quite disappointing for Daniel Ricciardo. I'm a massive Daniel Ricciardo fan, as are a lot of people out here. But we don't really know what has happened to his form and to his head, really. I think he's maybe lost his fighting spirit and doesn't have that racing just eagerness in him anymore. I mean, to go and put a car P8 just behind his teammates is not really what we'd be expecting, as Max Verstappen now goes exactly where we would expect, as a 1:18.6, completely miles ahead of everyone else, 0.4 seconds ahead of Charles Leclerc on the same tyre as Gianpiero Lambiase. His race engineer just looks on quite happy with his performance there. it's really quite disappointing for Daniel Ricciardo, and we'd love to see him performing in his old ways, but I don't think that is coming anymore. And you have to ask, how much longer are Red Bull going to give him in that seat before they get the likes of a Liam Lawson in there to start shaping their future? Because that is the purpose of that seat, is to be shaping drivers for the future, for that future Red Bull seat. And if you have the likes of a Daniel Ricciardo in there, not really ever with the opportunity of him going further up, then you have to ask, what is the point at all in keeping him in the Racing Bull seat? I really would, of course, like to have him in the sport forever, but if he's not performing and not putting in a performance good enough to warrant keeping him in that seat, and having us questioning, cool, is he going to be the one to replace Sergio Perez? Then I don't think there is a point in him being in that Racing Bull seat. Just watching Logan Sargent now, he's currently down in P15. He's doing some race runs on his mediums, coming through the final sector at the moment. Currently in the pits, we have Charles Leclerc, Sergio Perez, Oscar Piastri, and Lando Norris, followed by Lewis Hamilton, Pierre Gasly, George Russell, and Fernando Alonso is now leaving the pits as well to start some hot laps for himself. Just waiting to see what set of tyres Fernando Alonso will be on. We would expect him to probably be on a set of mediums based off of his teammate Lance Stroll. Looking at this, Kick Sauber coming into the pits, as he has apparently missed his pit box. It is quite tight down here in Australia. The team were apparently a little bit confused at the fact that he missed his pit box, but I'm sure they'll be able to wheel him into the pits quite shortly. Fernando Alonso is on a set of medium tyres, exactly what I did expect, as we have 42 minutes remaining of this section. Fernando Alonso now coming across the start-finish line to start his first hot lap on a set of mediums. Of course, he didn't put any indicative times because he was on some exploratory laps with his aero rakes. So at least now we can see some better times from him, seeing where he can put himself probably ahead of his teammate Lance Stroll. I don't think that should be all too hard. It's great to see how close the field is currently. Charles Leclerc, of course, 0.4 behind Max Verstappen, then Sergio Perez 0.1 off of Charles Leclerc, Piastri 0.1 off of Perez, Yuki Tsunoda 0.01 off of Piastri, Sainz 0.04 off of Tsunoda, Daniel Ricciardo 0.1 off of Sainz, Stroll 0.002 off of Ricciardo, and Norris 0.001 off of Stroll. So really, really tight between the top 10 right now. As Fernando Alonso, I think he is on really high fuels, as he is 1.5 seconds off of Max Verstappen through the first sector there. 100 of you watching alongside with us at the moment, thank you very much for joining. Be sure to hit that like button, as well as check out our channel sponsor, BITDEFENDER, in the link in the description. For all of your cybersecurity needs, be sure to check out BITDEFENDER in the link in the description. Just looking at Fernando Alonso now finishing up his lap, he's going to do, we'd expect, around a 1 minute 20 point something. Yeah, there we go. It was a 1:21.1. Pretty respectable race laps there for himself. It does look like he is on quite high fuel loads, but that is pretty good for the Aston Martin with those new front wing upgrades. Hopefully that will give him a little bit more pace this weekend and allow them to fight a little bit better with the likes of the Mercedes and the Ferraris. I think it was Bahrain that we saw them having a really good start, but then just fell back with their race pace. So hopefully this will help them with their race pace a little bit better, as we see Carlos Sainz now pushed back into his Ferrari pit garage. Watching a replay of Carlos Sainz coming through turn 9, does he have a little bit of a moment through here? I don't think he does, unless he hits the wall. No, he just gets really, really close. 9 centimeters from the wall is how close he got. These drivers just take all the risks in that approach to turn 9. It is a really, really tricky sector where you have to make a quick left and then another quick right hand after really fast DRS straights. We're watching now Daniel Ricciardo make his way through there. They come through there at about, I think it's 180 kilometers an hour, if not higher speeds, as Daniel Ricciardo has not improved on his middle sector, but has improved on his first sector. Speaking about him, I'm sure a lot of people will join me in the comment section. I don't think it's too much of a controversial opinion that I have, but we have to ask if he is going to be around in Formula One forever, if he is continuing to put in these sorts of performances as he now puts himself up into P5. 119.2 is his time. Still not phenomenal, but it is ahead of his teammate for now. Yuki Tsunoda down in P7 as George Russell comes onto the radio saying the brakes feel better. I'm sure he'll be a lot happier with that now. Looking at Daniel Ricciardo's race engineer, Pierre Hamilton, on the pit wall, chatting to Daniel Ricciardo, letting him know of his new lap times that he's put in. Just watching George Russell now, he is starting another hot lap on a set of medium tyres. He's looking quite aggressive as he comes down that long DRS straight. Aggressive into turn 1 and 2, but just seems to scrub off quite a lot of speed as they come through the exit of turn 2. So hopefully that doesn't mean that they trail too far down on the speed trap. But we'll have to wait and see. They seem to be doing oh no, there we go. Lewis Hamilton gets out of the way. I was going to say they seem to be doing a bit of a slipstream for George Russell, but Lewis Hamilton gets out of the way immediately as we have a new camera for this race weekend, looking at the brake duct of George Russell. Just really interesting camera view. Looking at the side of the car, you don't see too much other than just the brake duct, but maybe it could provide some really interesting views for us this race weekend, seeing some passes. George Russell in the middle sector, 0.5 down now on Verstappen's fastest time on his set of mediums. But, of course, that is to be expected to Max Verstappen's fastest time on a set of soft tyres. Yuki Tsunoda, 0.3 now seconds off of Max Verstappen's time for P2. Brilliant lap time put in by Tsunoda, 119.060, the closest to 118 other than Max Verstappen. Really, really good time on a set of mediums ahead of those soft runners of Leclerc and Perez. But, of course, the track is starting to rubber up a lot faster now, and the times are going to fall quite quickly. Just hearing that this was the first time that Ferrari had to replace a driver since 2009 with Felipe Massa. Of course, last week with big moment from Fernando Alonso in turn 10 in that tricky chicane, turn 9 and 10. He gets it slightly wrong on the exit and ends up on the gravel at really high speeds. Really lucky to hold on to it. Big tank slapper, but manages to hold on to it. That could have been a massive crash going into the wall. But just like snowboarding, really, he manages to catch it through the gravel there. Just watching Logan Sargent's point of view from that, with a big dust cloud being kicked up by Fernando Alonso's car. Really lucky for Fernando Alonso not to go into the wall there. I'm sure that would have been a bit of a hair-raising moment for him in the car, but really glad that he was able to hold on to it and keep it out of the wall, because that could have been really day-ending for him. That could have been some big damage. Now watching Pierre Gasly on a set of mediums, he's going to be trying to put in some lap times for himself. He has got no time, no representative time on the board as of yet. So 121.6 is his fastest lap time. The closest time to him, though, is Fernando Alonso with the 121.1. The Alpines have not had the greatest start to a season this year. A lot of turmoil within that team, a lot of change, a lot of swapping of hands between the race director, well, not race directors, but the team bosses at that team. And you have to understand why they've been having so many issues then. It's disappointing because they were a team last year that looked like they had some glimmers of hope. But when it all started to hit the fan for them, that it kind of just unraveled. As we're now watching Pierre Gasly come through the middle sector, 1.3 seconds down on Max Verstappen's time. So he's either on really high fuel loads or his car is just really down on pace. His teammate Esteban Ocon is all the way up in P9 though, so you would expect Pierre Gasly to have a little bit more pace than this. But yeah, really not finding his rhythm just yet out here in Albert Park. Every single major braking zone around this circuit is a right-hand corner, so it really does put a lot of pressure on your neck, as well as throughout the circuit, you're braking for around 8 seconds of the 1 minute and let's say 18 seconds that Max Verstappen does. Just looking down in the Ferrari pit garage, there's a lot of work going on I think this is Carlos Sainz's car. Yes, it is Carlos Sainz's car. So working quite frantically around the rear end of the car. So either brake issues or maybe just some changes that they're making to the cooling. As we're watching with Sergio Perez now coming through the middle sector, 0.3 down on Verstappen's time. So he's certainly picking up the pace a little bit on his soft tyres, but they are getting quite old now. Max Verstappen still holding on to that top spot with a 118.670. It looks like the Ferrari mechanics are looking at the rear wing, underneath the beam wing possibly of that Ferrari. It is quite interesting that they fiddling around quite a lot at this stage of practice. As Sergio Perez finishes up his lap, he goes fourth with that time, a 119 point. I can't see what it was. It's gone away from me. I think it was that 119.2. But just watching Lewis Hamilton, does he have a bit of a moment into turn 10? I think he just goes onto the curbs a little bit too much. Yeah, he does just go onto the curbs a little bit too much through the exit of turn 9. But a lot better than Fernando Alonso, who completely went off the track there. Just watching now with Lando Norris as well, coming down that really long DRS straight, approaching turn 9. Just saying, just check the floor because I bottomed out pretty bad. So possibly just struggling with a little bit of porpoising as he looks quite neat and tidy through turns 9 and 10. Lando Norris now fastest through sector 1. So clearly they've done a little bit of a setup change, dropped his car a little bit, and he is now absolutely flying up through the sector 2, but not with the purple sector time, but up overall on time by 0.073 seconds to Max Verstappen. What can he do through the final sector now? That's where it will all count for Lando Norris. He's on a set of socks now as well to match what Max Verstappen has been able to do. Really quite hooked up through the final sectors now, coming through turn 13 and now turn 14, the final turn on the circuit. Where can he put himself? He is approaching that start-finish line. DRS wide open, comes across the line now. Where does he go? Up into P1 by 0.1 seconds of 118.564. So this track is really evolving quite quickly now. But brilliant lap time from Lando Norris. Of course, this is just practice, but it is always great to see the drivers getting quite punchy in the opening stages. Oscar Piastri, one of the home heroes for this race weekend with the special helmet, of course, celebrating his home race. He is currently sitting down in P8. He was high up earlier on. I'm sure he will pick up the pace as well quite shortly to match what his teammate Lando Norris has been able to do. 107 of you watching alongside with us at the moment. Thank you very much for joining. Be sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel as well if you're enjoying all of the content that we are putting up for you. We do Formula 1 as well as the Moto GP, so be sure to stick around for all of that. We, of course, have practice 2 coming up a little bit later this morning at South Africa time, later on this afternoon, wherever you may be based. But be sure to let me know where you're watching from in the comment section, as well as who you are supporting for this race weekend. Max Verstappen and Lando Norris currently trading blows at the moment at the front of the field. Lando Norris with the fastest lap time with a 118.564. Max Verstappen with a 118.670. Lando Norris has just set that lap time. Max Verstappen set his lap time about 10 minutes ago. We have 30 minutes and 30 seconds remaining of this first practice session out here in Albert Park. It is looking absolutely marvelous out on circuit. It is currently 34 degrees Celsius track temperature, 18.4 degrees air temperature, with a 62% humidity and a 6.8 kilometer an hour wind going southwesterly. So not affecting the drivers too much. We haven't heard any of them complaining about it. We often do hear them complain about the wind at this circuit. These cars are just so sensitive to the wind, but they don't seem to be getting affected all that much here today, as now we have 30 minutes remaining of this session. Nico Hülkenberg finishes up his lap time. He's doing some long runs on those softs. He puts himself up into P12 with a 119.679 at the end of his lap. I think this is Max Verstappen now starting his first hot lap on a new set of tyres. I would expect this to be another set of softs unless he has come back out on the same set of softs on higher fuel loads. But Max Verstappen is now starting another hot lap. Ooh, bit of a puff Smoke coming out the back of Max Verstappen's car as he goes a bit wide over one of the curbs in Sector 1. He's 0.1 down on Lando Norris's time through Sector 1, going a little bit wide through Turn 7 as he comes to the long DRS straight. That will hamper his time a little bit now as he's got the DRS wide open. Lance Stroll moves himself up now into third place with a 118.804. Max Verstappen, of course, as I said, getting a little bit wider going to Turn 7 and 8. That will affect his top speed as he came through that long DRS sector. A little bit too much curb as well through the exit of Turn 10. So just a couple too many mistakes here for Max Verstappen. But these tyres are quite old by the looks of things. I don't think he has put on a new set of tyres. So just trying to see what these tyres feel like on high fuel loads that you would expect from Max Verstappen. Coming through the final corner now, Turn 14, as he comes down. Now the final DRS straight, wing wide open, comes across the line. You set for himself a 118.5 was Lando Norris's time, a 118.8 for Max Verstappen. Still a really, really good lap time for a used set of soft tyres. Just re-watching that replay of Max Verstappen going a little bit wide into Turn 4. And another little mistake he made into Turn 7, going a little bit too wide over the curbs there, having a little bit of snap of oversteer, just correcting it. Luckily able to hold on to that because he could have gone into the wall there as it is so close at the street circuit. But really well done from Max Verstappen on that lap. Push lap on a set of old softs, looking really, really quite calm and composed for the race on Sunday. Of course, Max Verstappen, ever so calm and composed in his car. A little bit of a racing moment here happening. I think this is between Yuki Tsunoda and Max Verstappen now. It does look like a bit of a racing moment between this Red Bull and Racing Bull, as the Red Bull is now ahead. That is Max Verstappen and Yuki Tsunoda. Oscar Piastri also pushing once again, 0.4 seconds down on Lando Norris's time now. He's also on a set of soft tyres and not being able to match what Lando Norris has done, but getting a lot closer to those lap times now. Quite a lot of work going on in the Aston Martin garage. They're all standing in front of Fernando Alonso's car as his car's up on the jacks, just trying to block the view of the cameras as they're working on the floor by the sounds of things. Quite a lot of cars in the pits at the moment. Lando Norris, Alex Albon, Esteban Ocon, Nico Hulkenberg currently leaving the pits, Hamilton in the pits, Russell, Sargent Bottas, and Fernando Alonso, as I said, of course, his car up on the jack right now. 160 of you watching alongside me. Thank you very much for joining. Be sure to hit the like button as well as let me know where you're watching him from and let me know who you are supporting. Watching with Carlos Sainz right now, he's going quite fast on his set of medium or soft tyres, not being able to improve in his middle sector, but picking up the pace a little bit in the first sector. Charles Leclerc as well on another push lap, not improving in his middle sector either. The middle sector seemingly catching out quite a few drivers. Of course, that is a very power-sensitive sector and would be why a lot of drivers are not making up time in the final two sectors, as Carlos Sainz goes 0.79 slower than his previous lap time. Charles Leclerc also coming up now to finish up his lap time. Lance Stroll going even faster through the middle sector. These Aston Martins showing quite a lot of pace in the closing stages of their race runs. Charles Leclerc moves himself up into P5 with that lap, 0.3 now behind Lando Norris's fastest lap time. Pierre Gasly finishes up his lap, 1.6 seconds, still off the time of Lando Norris, excuse me. Lance Stroll moves himself up into P2 with a 1:18.667, a brilliant lap time on a set of old softs. Really interesting to see Lance Stroll having some good pace in his car. They are looking really quite fast, especially in that middle sector where it is quite power dependent. They are showing some great top speed, as is being shown in the sectors. They currently have the fastest middle sector out of everyone with, I think it is Oscar Piastri with sector 1 and Lando Norris for sector 3. Esteban Ocon finishing up a lap time for himself with the DRS wide open. He comes across the line. I think he's actually setting himself up for another hot lap as his teammate comes out of the pits. Esteban Ocon and Pierre Gasly, of course, trying desperately to get back to where they were last year. It is proving to be quite difficult for Alpine, of course, with a lot of turmoil in the team, a lot of changes, a lot of new team principals and team members coming in, hopefully setting up the team for the future and having a little bit more stability for the future. But right now it is quite tumultuous within the team, as Esteban Ocon is coming through that second sector now, hasn't been able to improve the sector times in the first sector. We have 23 minutes though remaining of this first session, very early first session. So thank you for all of you for being so dedicated, getting up early to watch Formula One bright and early in Australia. But it is going to be another really interesting race weekend. I think the Red Bulls might have a little bit more competition than we may have thought for this race weekend. Currently being taken... excuse me, it is still quite early out here in South Africa. Max Verstappen and Sergio Perez still having a lot of competition in that top spot right now. Someone we also need to speak about is Logan Sargent. He's currently sitting up in P16, not too bad for himself, but he still hasn't been anything spectacular in that Formula One seat. We still haven't seen any standout performances from him that make us think, yes, Logan Sargent, that's a driver that I want to back and support for the future. As Yuki Tsunoda has now put himself up to P2, 0.057 seconds off the back of Lando Norris's fastest lap time. Yuki Tsunoda has been performing really, really well in that Racing Bulls seat. He has been one person that has made us go, I can see him make his way into that Red Bull seat, as he is actually ahead of Sergio Perez right now. Sergio Perez improves on his lap time, but not able to better his lap time to be above Yuki Tsunoda's right now, as his lap time is a 1:18.642. He has set the fastest third sector, though, has Sergio Perez with 33.8 seconds. Ooh, big moment from George Russell through turn 9 and 10. He nearly loses it there for himself. Almost a repeat of what Fernando Alonso did, but just looks like Mercedes are still having high-speed issues at these high-speed, power-dependent circuits where you have to have that high speed, but still need to have some of that downforce on the front wing to be able to have these fast sectors and these high speed corners, such as turn 9 and 10. Real issue that he had through there. Big snap on the front end. Oh, just could have had a massive accident there. Very lucky to hold on to it. Just watching this in slow motion as he comes through the entry, just loses it on the rear end. Big correction, goes onto the grass. Very fortunate to have hold on to that. Being asked if everything is fine in the car, he says, yeah, all fine. I'm sure he will be needing to come into the pits just to have maybe a change of overalls. That was a very scary moment for himself there. As I think we've had a moment now from Valtteri Bottas as well. I see a big puff of smoke there in the background and some dirt up in the air. So I think he's also had a moment through turn 9 and 10 as the tyres are starting to get a little bit older. Everyone is starting to find the limits a little bit of the circuit. I think he's actually lost it before turns 9 and 10 even. Waiting to see a replay of Valtteri Bottas. Yes, it was through turns 9 and 10. Let's see what happened for him. Just coming through the entry there of turn 9. Also had just completely lose it on the rear end. He's not able to hold it like George Russell was, and he does a full 360. That will be the end of those soft tyres. Being asked, all okay, Valtteri, and then saying, yeah, all good. Very lucky to hold on to it, but just shows how easy it is to lose it through the circuit. Big flat spots. Yanis sector in sector 2 now with a red flag. What has happened? Red flag now in sector 2. Red flag throughout the circuit. Oh, big crash for Alex Albon. Alex Albon has hit the wall. That is the end of it for Alex Albon. He says he's okay, but another year, another crash for Alex Albon. He was out in the race here last year for himself, as Charles Leclerc has now put himself up into P2 with a 1:18.599. But the clock keeps ticking down. 90 minutes and 26 seconds remaining of the session. James Vowles watching over his stricken Williams car of Alex Albon. Very, very disappointing. I think this is on the exit of turn 4, 5. Really, really interesting as he's lost it on the inside here. I'd like to see this replay for Alex Albon, how he managed to do this. He's hit the car quite badly on the right-hand side. Ooh, he may have even broken a gearbox. That is very, very bad for Alex Albon. I see the back right tyre is facing the wrong way. That could be a broken gearbox for him. Luckily, normally they have a practice gearbox. Yeah, he's lost it in turn 8. Oh, yeah, he's just completely hit the curb a little bit too early, lost a little bit too much, and just got washed out into the entry of turn 8, hit that corner and just completely lost it, unfortunately. Watching the replay now, we can see him approaching turn 6, 7. He already goes way too much into the curbs there, loses it into the wall, breaks his front right. Yeah, and just a bit of a passenger from then onwards. Disappointing for Alex Albon, just trying to find the limits of the circuit, finds the limits a little bit too much, and has found himself out of the section that is going to be quite a big cleanup. There's carbon fiber everywhere, all over the circuit, from turn 6 all the way to turn 8. Yeah, very disappointing for Alex Albon. Bit of a snap you can see on the front end, just because he does take way too much curb, breaks the front right and rear right, as well as the rear left by the looks of things as well. So quite a lot of damage to his Williams car. Hopefully they'll be able to rebuild that before practice 2, but that does look like a tall order for those Williams mechanics, as the red flag is now being waved for the session. We'll have to wait and see whether the session will be resumed, but we still have 17 minutes left to go. Hopefully they will be able to repair all of that damage. I don't think there's any damage on the walls, but there is just so much debris all over the place here as they're waiting to get a crane in to remove this car of Alex Albon. Be sure to let us know what you thought of this first practice session in this comment section below. As of course we have had those comments from F123 and Rod Shepherd joining us early out here in Australia. We're already seeing the recovery of this car happening, a lot of the carbon fiber being picked up, watching the replays of this, looking at the replay a year ago in the same sector, a couple of corners apart really for Alex Albon from last year to right now, where he has had this moment. He just seems to not have the confidence maybe through turn 6 and 7. As we could see in the entry, maybe he even took a little bit too much grass there, maybe got a little bit loose on the rear end, then took a little bit too wide into turn 7, got over the curbs a little bit, that unsettled the rear of the car. He was then sent careering into the barriers of turn 8, and that unfortunately led to him being in the barriers now where he is, and the red flag for the session. Hopefully we can get that car being removed quite quickly. Just waiting to see if they have got a crane overhead just yet. I don't see one just yet. So no, oh, there we go. The crane has now made its way over towards the car. But a lot of cleanup having to happen. But I think we should get at least maybe about 10 minutes of running. Unfortunately, though, this will affect his confidence going into the rest of the sessions. He had that moment in the same corner last year. He's had the same moment now. So he's going to constantly be quite cautious going into that corner from now onwards. But I think he needs to be. Looking at the low-speed corners, Yuki Tsunoda is currently faster in those low-speed corners than Lando Norris, who has that top time. He is 0.17 seconds, sorry, faster than Norris through those low-speed corners. There are 3 slow-speed corners on the circuit. That would be turns 3 and 4 and turns 13 and 14, as well as I think that is turn 11 and 12 as well. I think that shows a little bit of the weakness for McLaren, who struggled a little bit throughout those low-speed corners. Just watching a replay again of Alex Albon, the reason why we have got a red flag currently because he went into the wall with his Williams vehicle. Unfortunately, getting a little bit too eager and not cautious enough through turns 6 and 7. Took a little bit too much curb and then ended up in the wall in turn 8. Just watching with Lando Norris, seeing how much debris was left all over the circuit, just carbon fiber everywhere as he comes onto the radio saying Albon is on the outside, or being told Albon is on the outside, saying lots of debris, checking the tires. Is he all right? It looks like a pretty big crash, as Rod Shepherd just answers Christian there in the comment section asking for why there's a red flag, as Alex Albon did crash into turn 8. Thank you, Rod. Yeah, Alex Albon is all right, thank goodness, but there is a big cleanup happening at the moment, cleaning up all of that debris and carbon fiber from that Albon incident into turn 8. Toto Wolff currently looking a little bit unhappy at his race engineers right now. Lewis Hamilton and George Russell currently sitting P15 and P16, not where we would expect the Mercedes to be right now. They have only done medium tyre runs. Usually they do a lot more race runs in the opening stages of the race weekend, so nothing out of the ordinary for them, but they do look like they are on the back foot once again this season, of course losing their main title driver Lewis Hamilton at the end of the season. He's going to Ferrari. That does, you would have to expect, have a bit of an effect on the team's morale. And I think it is currently showing out on the track as well. They're not having the pace that we would expect them to have, as now that car of Alex Albon is being recovered and taken off the circuit. Just watching a replay once more of Alex Albon, seeing what happened. He started coming through turn 6, went quite wide through there, over the curbs, and then just a passenger into turn 8. Just slowed down a little bit, just catches the entry grass, I think, a little bit into turn 6. And then turn 7 gets a little bit too eager over the curb. That sends him out a little bit wide into the curb of into the exit curve of turn 7. Really quite wide over the floor. That unsettles the rear end of the car. He gets a snap of oversteer. That sends him into the wall of turn 8. Yeah, disappointing for himself. He will learn from it though, I'm sure, and he will come back better from it. But there is a lot of damage on that Williams car. I don't know if he'll be able to get out again for practice 2. So looking in the garages at the moment, we have to talk a little bit about Haas as well. They seem to be finding some better performance in some race weekends, especially at the high downforce, or high-speed circuits rather, should I say. Hulkenberg currently in P14, Magnussen currently P12 with 119.489. Toto Wolff looking a little bit, as I said already, a little bit unhappy with his Mercedes garage. But Charles Leclerc also sitting in his car, he's looking quite happy, 0.035 off the back on of Lando Norris's lap time. As the RC project says, is this based on live? Yes, it is currently based on what is happening live out in Melbourne. As Mark Spock says, hey, so who's looking good then before the crash? Right now, Lando Norris is looking quite competitive. Yuki Tsunoda has been pushing in some really good lap times this race weekend. Haven't seen some lap times from Fernando Alonso just yet, but his teammate Lance Stroll has been rapid throughout this race, this practice session, should I say. So I think Alex Albon should be, Fernando Alonso should be quite competitive this race weekend. I'm really hoping for the Aston Martins with their upgraded front wings. 10 minutes left of the session now, still showing a red flag. So waiting for that to be cleared after Alex Albon's debris gets removed from the circuit. Lots of fans waiting for this to get back underway, as the RC project says. Cheers, lad. Thank you very much for that. Yeah, just looking forward to this getting back underway. I think we'll get a couple sprint laps in at the end, just for maybe fastest lap on some new set of tyres, unless people just continue to do their race runs. But the race control has now said that the session will resume at 13:21 local time, so in 1 minute's time, as we're seeing all of the drivers now making their way back onto the circuit and waiting at the end of the pit lane. Track was cleared relatively quickly, so thank you to all the marshals down here in Australia. always absolutely phenomenal out here. They're always very, very good. But just waiting for that clock to click over to 21 past, as it has now done my time, so I'm sure we'll get all of the drivers out on circuit quite quickly. Mark asking thoughts on the Red Bull drama. Just plain old normal Formula One drama. Of course, the tabloids just taking a little bit of an advantage and hyping things up a little bit more, but I'm sure we'll get some clarification, or at least I hope we'll get some clarification on all of the drama happening in Red Bull quite soon. As we're seeing the drivers all making their way out of the circuit now, as the green flag is once again being shown for these final remaining 8 minutes of this practice one session. It is a very busy pit lane as the majority of the drivers are coming out on sets of medium tyres. We're seeing the likes of Carlos Sainz on a set of soft tyres for himself. Lewis Hamilton on a set of softs as well. Who else will be on a set of softs here today? Lando Norris, though, with the fastest lap time of the day so far, with a 1:18.564, he did 3 laps on that set of soft tyres. Charles Leclerc did a 1:18.59, 0.035 behind that lap time of Lando Norris's. So very, very closely matched between the McLarens and the Ferraris right now. We would expect that gap to grow maybe a little bit to the Red Bulls once they get onto a representative tyre, but I'm really hoping that I'm wrong and we do get them quite a bit closer this race weekend. Mercedes now hopefully going to put in some of their first lap times on a set of softs. Lewis Hamilton with his DRS now wide open as he comes across the start line to start his lap. Mark asking quick prediction for the last couple of... Oh, Lewis Hamilton goes onto the grass. That gets ruined. Well, that ruins Lewis Hamilton's first hot lap now on the set of softs. Mark's question there, though. Quick prediction for the last couple of minutes here. Will we see a faster lap before the end? I'm sure we will, as the circuit is evolving super quickly out here. Just watching once again Lewis Hamilton with this big snap of oversteer as he comes into turn 1, having to make a massive correction, and that sends him straight onto the grass. Very, very expensive lawnmower there. I'm sure they will have to check the floor of that car, as he does have some big jumps over the grass. Lucky to keep it out of the wall and out of the gravel, but just not what the Mercedes will want to see. They're clearly having some issues with snapping at high-speed corners. Because his teammate George Russell had a very similar incident through turn 9 and 10. Watching Carlos Sainz, he's on a hot lap right now, 0.2 off of Lando Norris's time as he's coming through turn 10. DRS wide open now as he comes through that back straight and the final sector of the circuit. Will we see a faster lap time being put in? I'm pretty sure we should. But who is going to put that in? Max Verstappen now on another flying lap. Will he be able to take that fastest lap time away from Lando Norris? 0.05 in the first sector away from Norris' time is Max Verstappen. So we'll have to wait to see what he can do through sectors 2 and sector 3. That was a very, very close moment for Lewis Hamilton through turn 1 and 2. Max Verstappen is now up through the middle sector. A little bit unneat through, quite wide now through turn 10. Very, very unneat for him. He has now completely backed off and abandoned that hot lap. Just getting a little bit too wide on the exit of turn 9. Still not happy through there. Maybe a little bit of just understeer as they came through that exit, but not good enough for Max Verstappen. He has abandoned that lap time. Sergio Perez looking a little bit neater now as he comes through that middle sector. Only a couple tenths off of Lando Norris's fastest lap time. So will he be able to take it to Lando Norris now in these closing stages? 5 minutes left to go. Big slide through turn 11. So clearly a lot of issues for everyone down the entire grid with rear sliding at the circuit. As he has a big lockup now through turn 13, abandons his lap, and now is going to have to start again. Yeah, he abandons the lap. Max Verstappen goes into the pits. Clearly everyone having a little bit of a struggle now in these closing few stages of the practice session. 4 minutes and 20 seconds now left to go. Mark's just asking, should we expect Red Bulls to still be fastest this race weekend? Well, right now we don't really know. The fastest out on circuit is the McLarens of Lando Norris. Just watching a replay of Max Verstappen through turns 9 and 10. A little bit late on the entry, that possibly caused him to be so wide on the exit. As we heard him going over the curbs, they're quite aggressive on the floor. They'll have to check that out. But Verstappen just coming onto the radio to say, I bottomed out quite hard there. So yeah, they'll definitely have to check out his floor for any damage. Just watching what happens to Sergio Perez through turn 11. Oh, big snap of oversteer through there, just touching the curb a little bit too much. That unsettled the rear, and unfortunately that was the end of his push lap there. And then just for the cherry on top there, at the end of his lap, he had a big lockup into turn 13. I do think we should still expect the Red Bulls to be quite fast, but will they be the fastest? I don't really know. You would expect them to have the better setup of everyone, as Nico Hülkenberg tries to get past the Ferrari in the pit lane, and he actually ends up hitting the rear of him, of Carlos Sainz. He says, I just got touched by a Haas behind, think with his front wing. Yeah, Mark Sparks saying this is horribly early. Yes, it is very, very early at the moment. But this is what we do for Formula One, the sport that we all love. Max Verstappen back out on circuit. He's going to attempt one final hot lap. No, he isn't. He goes straight back into the pits. 2 minutes and 30 seconds now remaining of this session. Yeah, he comes back into the pits. And I expect that to be the end of his session. No, he doesn't. He goes straight through the pits, and I don't know what he's doing that for, but he just goes straight through the pits and starts another hot lap, maybe just finding a bit of a gap for himself to do his final hot lap on. Yuki Tsunoda currently putting in his final hot lap as we go into the final 2 minutes of this practice one session. Thank you very much for all of you for joining alongside with us here on Forever Motorsports. Be sure to subscribe to the channel if you aren't already, as well as like the video. Just looking at the track dominance between Yuki Tsunoda and Daniel Ricciardo at the moment, it is very evenly matched through the higher speed sections, but through the low speed sections, Yuki Tsunoda just has the upper hand over Daniel Ricciardo. And that is why Yuki Tsunoda's P3 and Daniel Rick is all the way down in P11. Of course, Daniel Ricciardo has not put in a lap time on a set of softs just yet, but we'll have to wait and see what he can do in practice 2 later on. 1 minute and 10 seconds left to go of this session. People putting in their final hot laps now. Let's see what happens in these closing stages of this practice session. Just looking at these timing boards, I don't know if anyone is out putting in some hot laps. I think we'll be waiting more for the likes of Verstappen, Russell and Perez to start their final hot laps. Those who weren't able to do their final push laps because of those slight errors that they did make. Max Verstappen now coming across the start-finish line to start his final hot lap of the practice one session. DRS now wide open. He comes through turn 1. Let's see if he keeps a little bit more neat and tidy than he was able to do previously. Looking very hooked up through there as per usual. DRS wide open as he comes now down the long main straight. Turn 3 and 4. Turn 3 looks neat. Turn 4 as well, quite hooked up. Keeps it a little bit better over the curb there, not as wide as he went previously. Turn 6 as well. Looking from the visor cam, slight bits of oscillations, 0.1 down in the first sector. Not too bad, of course, on these rarely quite used soft tyres now. DRS once again wide open as it comes down the very, very long back straight now, passing some traffic. Now is this corner where he lost it a little bit last time. 0.046 up on his fastest that time so far. Much neater through turns 9 and 10. The session is now over, so these final few lap times being put in now, and then that will be the end of the session. A lot neater for Max Verstappen now. Coming through turn 13 now, much more hooked up for Max Verstappen. Turn 14 as well. DRS open, he comes across the line and improves his lap time up for P2 with 118.582 at the end of that lap. Not any personal best for himself, but is enough to improve him up for P2. 0.018 down on Lando Norris's time. A very good lap time for himself at the end. And that is the end of this practice session. Just the last few drivers now coming across the line. Lando Norris also coming across the line a little bit wide through turn 13 there. And now turn 14, it does not look like he's pushing all too much. DRS wide open. He comes across the line. I don't think he improves on his lap time at all. No, he doesn't. But that is the end of his session. A relatively good session for all of the drivers out there on circuit, except for, of course, Alex Albon, who did have that crash into turn 8. Unfortunate for him, but it has been a relatively good session for the rest of the drivers. A lot of lap times being put in. Looking quite close for the top 10 right now, all being separated by a couple of tenths. From P1 to P7, they are all separated by 0.1 seconds. Very good prospect for the rest of this race weekend. I'm really hoping that means we're going to have some close racing. Those who looking like they're struggling at the moment is, of course, the likes of the Mercedes having struggles with high-speed corners. Lewis Hamilton saying he may have damaged the floor as well through turn 10. So really not looking like the greatest morning for them at the moment. But we'll have to wait and see how their race weekend progresses through practice 2 and practice 3. Oscar Piastri getting a little bit close to the traffic of, I think, Sergio Perez as he comes into the radio and says that's probably the worst place the Red Bull could have stopped. But yeah, Oscar Piastri just saying a bit stupid from the Red Bulls there. But for the rest of this race weekend, I think it is going to be quite a close one with the Ferraris, the McLarens, the Aston Martins looking quite competitive, as well as, of course, those Red Bulls as per usual. George Russell puts himself within the mix, but I think they still have a little bit of work to do with their race setup because of that instability through those high-speed corners. But I think there is still a lot to look forward to for practice 2 and practice 3, and of course qualifying tomorrow afternoon. But thank you very much for joining us bright and early for this first practice session. I've been Reese here on Forever Motorsports. Be sure to hit that like button as well as check out our channel partner BITDEFENDER in the link in the description for all of your cyber security needs. Thank you very much. I've been Reese on Forever Motorsports. Cheers.